Hello, everyone. Welcome to Explorer Classroom. My name is Gina Borgia, and I am so glad you are joining us today. This month, we're celebrating Asian American, Pacific Islander American, and Jewish American Heritage Month. Many of our explorers identify with these heritage groups, and we encourage our viewers to look into these histories and present-day contributions of these incredible individuals in your communities and across the globe. At National Geographic, we know the power of exploration, wonder, and storytelling can change the world. This Explorer Classroom YouTube show connects students around the world with our National Geographic Explorers for short lessons and time for your questions. Today, our explorer is Pablo Popi Garcia Borboroglu. Popi is a marine biologist, penguin conservationist, and founder of the Global Penguin Society, an international organization devoted to protecting the world's penguin species. Popi has spent 32 years studying seabird conservation and has taken over 7,000 students to visit penguin colonies in person. Today, Popi is joining us from Argentina to show us the tools he uses in the field and how he works to protect habitats for penguins. But before we get into today's lesson, let's welcome our viewers who are joining us from around the world today. Our shout outs for today's episode go to Stuart M. Townsend Elementary School, PS 274 Kosciuszko, the Emanuele Lugo family, Limestone Creek Elementary School, Jonas E. Salk Elementary School, Clark Boulevard Public School, Andover Elementary, Highland School, the Gutierrez family, St. Benedict CES, El Dorado Elementary School, Planet English, Glenn Elementary School, the Fox family, J.S. Waters Elementary, Higgins Middle School, IBIME Montes Elementary School, 191 Virtual, the Cool School, Zion Lutheran, and all of our homeschools out there. We are so thrilled to have you all here. And with that, let's get this Explorer Classroom started. It's time to turn it over to Popi to share all about tracking and protecting penguins. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Gina, for that amazing introduction. I am so thrilled to be with all of you. Thank you so much for joining us in this classroom. I am really proud to be a National Geographic Explorer. And as Gina mentioned, I am a penguin researcher and conservationist, and I dedicated all my life to study penguins and also to protect them. So now I would like to share with you a presentation that I prepared. There it goes. You might be seeing it now. So as Gina was mentioning in this brief presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about penguins. How many penguins do we have? The main characteristics that penguins have, where do they live, and what do we do from the Global Penguin Society to protect the penguins in all the planet. But before that, I want to share with you why I work with penguins. And I always say that the first person that ever told me about something called a penguin was my grandmother, because my grandmother used to visit penguins 100 years ago in this same place where I am right now, which is the southern part of Argentina in a region called Patagonia. And she used to go with horses and wagons, as you can see in the picture, to visit penguins. And that was not very common 100 years ago. Now it's quite common to go and visit wild animals, but a long time ago, that was not very normal. But when I was born and I was small boy, 2 or 3 years old, she used to tell me these amazing stories about her visits. And it was very important because through the stories of the penguins, she helped me to connect with penguins. And now with my work, I can share with all of you the stories that my grandmother told me. But when I grew up, I was surprised and I was concerned about the big number of penguins that died in this part of Argentina due to oil spills. In this picture, I am an adolescent and I am feeding one penguin that is oiled. As you can see, it has got these dark black spots on the body. That's oil. So we are rehabilitating him. We rehabilitated them and then we released them. And then there was a big oil spill here. And then I realized that I needed to train myself, to educate myself, and to learn a lot to be able to help penguins in a better way. That is why I went to the university to get other tools to help penguins. And another important thing is that the first time I visited a penguin colony, I was really kind of impressed. I had this big connection with them, and I had this sense that I had to help them, to dedicate my life to help them, and to help them cope with the main threats they were facing. And that is the reason why I started to work on penguins. But let me tell you, I was not a person, I was not a boy like other colleagues that all their lives knew they were going to dedicate their life to biology. That was not me. I was not the normal person that was all the time looking for animals or bugs. So I was not paying attention to that until I was like an adolescent and I got this connection with penguins. And then I dedicated uh, my life to protect them. But let me tell you, penguins are very important because they are very good indicators of the health of the oceans and the coast. They tell us what is wrong in the ocean and on the coast. If there is an oil spill, we will see penguins oiled along the coast. If there is a lack of food, we will realize when we study them that there's a problem with the chicks, that they are not growing. And the penguins, since they reflect what is happening to the oceans, they are very important because the oceans, they are key for our planet and for ourselves. Most of the planet is covered by the ocean. The ocean provides oxygen and a lot of food, and they also control all the weather in all the planet. So the oceans are very important. That's why we work to protect penguins and to protect the oceans. And let's dive into the penguins world. There are 18 different species of penguins that they breed across islands and continents throughout the southern hemisphere. But the oceans are in trouble, and unfortunately, penguins are in trouble too, because half of the 18 species are considered threatened right now. So this is the planet, this is our planet from the penguin perspective. This is the way penguins see our planet, with Antarctica in its center. So penguins have colonies in Antarctica, also in New Zealand, as you can see in the shape, in the yellow shape, in New Zealand and the south part of Australia, in the south part of Africa, and also in 4 countries in South America. And that yellow arrow indicates the place where I am right now. I am in the middle of penguin land. This is, as I told you, a place called Patagonia on the Atlantic side of Argentina. So normally people think that all penguins live on ice and they all live in Antarctica. But the truth is that only 4 species of penguins breed in Antarctica, including these funny Adderley penguins. But some of the penguins, like this one, they breed like this. You can see here a humble penguin chick. He's hugging a cactus in coastal Peru, which is a desertic area. So this, as you can see, has nothing to do with the ice or Antarctica. Other penguins, like these Galapagos penguins, they live in lava caves in the Galapagos Islands. And some others, I don't know if you knew that, they live in the forest. And can you find the penguin in the picture? You don't have to look up in the pictures because penguins cannot fly. The penguin is in the down to the right. You can see the penguin watching at the camera there, hiding among the bushes. These are Fiordland penguins that live in the south of New Zealand. It's very difficult to work with them because you can hardly find them. They nest in deep caves under logs and rocks in New Zealand. So as you can see, they live in a very wide variety of habitat, and most penguins live outside of Antarctica. One of the issues with the penguins is that they spend most part of their lives in the ocean, but also on land, because they come on land to have a nest. So they accumulate threats from both environments, in the ocean and on land. Climate change is a problem now because it produces alterations, modifications. It changes the melting and the formation of ice in Antarctica. And that is important because the ice is key for the food and also for the habitat for these penguins. But in the rest of our planet, climate change is also changing the distribution of the fish, of the food that penguins need. So it is a problem for penguins because climate change is changing that, and penguins cannot find the food in the moments and in the places where they need it. Fisheries in some area also compete with penguins because they are catching fish in the same places where penguins are looking for food. And in the oil spills, as I mentioned in the beginning, was also a problem because penguins need the feathers to be completely waterproof. And when they get oiled, that affects that waterproof condition. So they get wet and they have cold and they can die from that. But now, one of the issues that we are witnessing is the problem with plastic pollution. Every year, a lot of plastics are dumped into the rivers and into the oceans and into the atmosphere. And that also affects our penguins. This is a picture taken in one of our colonies where you can see one poor penguin with a piece of a plastic bottle around its neck. So sometimes penguins, they get stuck in big pieces of plastics, but sometimes they also swallow pieces that can harm them. So this is the reason why we created the Global Penguin Society, an organization that protects penguins in all the planet. And we do science, we do habitat protection, creating protected areas where penguins can fish, look for food, and also protecting the places where they are raising their chicks. And we have a big program about education. So one of the things we do, for example, is we take kids to visit penguins for the first time, but we also take children and members of the community to remove all the plastics from penguin areas. So let me show you this short video where you can see one of these events. So when we arrive to those places, all the colonies they have a lot of plastics along the coast and also in the nests. So when we leave the place, everything is neat and tidy so the penguins can live in a healthy and safe habitat. So one of the things we do in terms of research, if we track penguins, we put satellite tracks on them or GPS devices to know where are them in the ocean when we don't see them. So here you can see a couple of penguins and one of them has one of these devices in red in the back. So I want to show you this short video where one of our colleagues from New Zealand that works with us is telling us some of the results when we track penguins in New Zealand.
So we use satellite trackers to follow their pre-molt dispersal. And we found that birds traveled up to 2,500 kilometers away, covering distances of close to 7,000 kilometers. That's halfway to Antarctica. No other crested penguin species is known to travel that far during this time of their annual cycle.
So this is amazing because we didn't know much about this penguin. This is the penguin that live in the forest, and it was one of the least studied penguins of all. So we put the devices on them and we discovered that they were traveling very long distances. And this information, we use it to protect the ocean where they are traveling. So now I'm going to stop share, because I want to show you how do we study penguins. And I'm going to put our little friend here. This is a Magellanic penguin. Here it is. So I'm going to show you exactly how we study penguins and how we capture them. First of all, these kind of penguins, they coexist with dangerous animals like pumas and foxes and skunks. So they are kind of aggressive because they need to be aggressive to protect themselves from these predators. So what we do, they live in their nests, are burrows, and also they have nests under the bushes. So we use these kind of hooks, you know, like a rebar, like a hook. So we grab the penguins from the foot like this. We push very softly and smoothly to take the penguin out of the nest. So we go like this, and then the penguin comes backward, and then we work with a partner, so a person can grab the penguin, control the head so it doesn't hurt us. So one of the things we do with the penguins is we collect different kinds of information. It is very important, no matter what you do, to register, you know, every single thing that you do, because to put the date, to put all the details, because you think you will always remember that, but then you forget. So I have this National Geographic, you know, notebook, and I register every time I visit, every time I see a penguin, all the information here is neat and tidy. So one of the things we do is we weight them, because it is very important to know how much they weigh, because that affects their capacity to raise their chicks alive. So this is what we do. We use this kind of band, like you see. So we put the band around the body of the penguin like this. And then, of course, we put the band under the flipper, right? It will go under the flipper. So we go like this, and then we use a scale, like the similar scale used for fishing, you know? So we go like this. We work, as I told you, in pairs, and then the penguin will be hanging, you know, like this, you know, hanging. And then we determine how much do they weigh. And sometimes we weigh them at different moments of the breeding cycle. So this is the scale. You see, this is a typical scale that we use to determine their weight. This is very, very important. Some penguins are really relaxed. They're hanging there. They don't care. Some others are not so happy about being weighed, but they collaborate the same. One typical thing, you can see the size of the penguins. They're very small. So we work on our knees. So we use these kind of knee pads, you know. They are very important because you are all day long on your knees. So this is very important to protect your knees. Some other thing that we do is that we use calipers like this one, because the size of the bill allows us to sex them, to determine if there is a male, if it is a male or a female. So let me put our friend closer to the camera now, because males have longer and wider bills, you know. So this is how we measure them. We measure the bills, the length of the bill like this. And as you can see, this is the reason why we work in pairs, because one person have to hold the penguin, you know, very kindly. You don't make pressure, you just control the head so it doesn't attack you. We measure like this, and we also determine the width of the bill like this, you know. So both measures allows us to determine if it's a female or a male, and that is also very helpful. Some other thing that we do, as I've shown you in the last video, is that we track the penguins. To track the penguins, we use different technology, sometimes satellite technology, sometimes GPS. When you use satellite technology, you know the position of the penguin in the ocean all the time, because you can check that in your computer. And if the device is lost, you still have the information. With the GPS devices, you cannot see the position of the penguin online, because to get the information, you have to meet the penguin again and recover the device. So we try, this is a dummy. This is the similar to a satellite device. You can see the antenna, you can see the size. Sometimes satellite track devices are very expensive. So we put them on penguins that we call VIP, very important penguins. Those are the penguins that we have followed for a long time. We know everything about their lives. And penguins, you know what, are very loyal to their nest. Year after year, they come to the same nest. And as a consequence, they meet with the same partners. We have followed a couple that they've been together breeding for 17 years. So this is the way we put a device, you see? We put the device on the lower back in here. We go like this, and we use different special kinds of glues and tapes to use. We glue it to the feathers, that is not harming the penguin. And these devices, they can be on the penguin for 2-3 months, more or less. If we don't get to find the penguin, the seawater will dilute everything, and this device will fall off. So it won't harm the penguins, but we will have the information we need. So another thing that we have is different things like some kind of bracelets, like these ones. Like they are like neoprene bracelets. These are more for GPS. In this little square, we put the device to track them, and then we attach the bracelet to one of the foot of the penguin. So this is a different kind of technology. And sometimes we need to count the penguins. We need to know how many penguins. Let me put this camera a little up. Yeah. So we need to know how many penguins do we have. So we count in small colonies, we count them all. We count all the nests, and we check how many penguins are there on each nest. So we go with a lot of volunteers, 10, 15, 20, and with a handheld counter, like this one, each one of us, we need to register how many nests are active, how many nests are occupied. And that's the way we count. But we walk and we survey all the colonies. Some colonies are 400 hectares. That would be like 400 blocks. It's like a city, mainly a city of penguins. So you can imagine. So with our friend, I want to show you some of the things. The ancestor of the penguin, it used to live 60 million years ago, long time ago, and they say it used to be a flying bird. But penguins, they lost the ability to fly, and the wings were transformed into flippers, like this guy, So the flippers are really hard and stiff, and all the feathers are really, really small, like scales of a fish, Penguins are completely adapted to live in the ocean. Some penguins can be under the ocean for 23 minutes without breathing. A human being, we can be 4 minutes without breathing, but we have to be trained to do that. And some penguins, they can dive 500 meters, which would be, let me see if it would be 1,500 feet, if I'm correct. So that's a lot. And one of the issues with the penguins is that they eat in the ocean and they drink seawater. So the salt of the ocean can be harmful for them. So seabirds, including penguins are seabirds. Let me show you this skull of a real seabird. This is the bill. This is the part. This is the eye should be here, and this is the part. The brain should be in this place. But above the eyes, I don't know, you can see there, they have on both eyes, when they are alive, they have something that we call salt gland. They are a special structures, special organs that filter the blood, and they take the salt out of their body. So when you go to a penguin colony, you will hear them sneezing. They go, cheese, cheese, all the time. And that's the way they eliminate the excess of salt. And minutes later, you will see a drop of salt water on the tip. That's how they eliminate the excess of salt from their bodies. So as you can see, penguins are amazing, and they have a lot of adaptations, and they are always full of surprises. So with this, I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have, and or if you can see any of these devices more in detail. So thank you.
Great question. Thank you so much for that. And Poppy, thank you so much for sharing about all your passion with us today. It truly is contagious. And that leads us to our final question. How can we all and all of the young explorers out there take on your mission and teach others about the importance of conservation, or penguin conservation in particular?
So I think it is very important. It could be penguins, it could be birds, it could be any animal you have in your backyard, it could be a tree or a plant. We are all motivated and inspired by different things. So a key thing that we can all do is learn a little bit, go to internet, talk to our parents, our grandparents, our peers, so they can tell us more about those animals. It could be a butterfly, it could be a spider. I love spiders and snakes. So the more we learn, the more we understand, and the more we value those animals, and we understand what do they need, how we can help them, and never stop exploring. I mean, even in your backyard, even there are animals, and there's life and wildlife everywhere. If you really want to help penguins specifically, one of the issues I've shown you today is the problem with the plastics. And we can all do our part today, right now, because there are many things that we can avoid in our daily lives. I mean, just by avoiding single-use plastics, things made of plastics that we don't necessarily need, and we use them for a few minutes and they can stay on the planet for hundreds and hundreds of years. And those pieces of plastics end up on the penguin nest. So if you can avoid the use of those plastics, that would be a great help, not only for penguins, for all the wildlife, human beings, and for all the planet.
Well, that was fabulous advice. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today and to share all about this wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you.
No, thank you, Gina. And before I leave, if you want to know more about what we do, you can go to globalpenguinsociety.org, or on Instagram, Global Penguin Society. We post different things about when we go to the field with the penguins. And we have just launched a book called Meet the Penguins, which is an activity and learning book that you can download for free from our website. So Global Penguin Society, what we do in education, and you download for free posters and material. So have fun there.
Wow, thank you so much for that recommendation. I just popped that link in the chat, so be free to check that out. And thank you so much, teachers, for being here and making these wonderful opportunities happen for your students. And students, thank you so much for all of your thoughtful questions. We have a few announcements for Explorer Classroom before we let you all go. We are nearing the end of our school year for Explorer Classroom with only a few weeks left, so you won't want to miss out on what we have in store before school is out. We'll be right back here next week with our regular schedule and then some. So next week, we have a special event on Monday, May 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern with explorer Allison Cristitiello, who will be joining us live from an expedition on Mount Logan. Then on Wednesday, May 25th at 9 a.m. Eastern, we're going to hear from storyteller Paul Salopek, who will join us live from his Out of Eden Walk trail in China. And then on Thursday, on May 26th, our regular schedule, we have explorer Gretchen Johnson, who is going to teach us all about the hidden history of St. Helena Island. So lots coming up. You can register your student group for a shout out during the event, or a chance to be up here on screen with us at natgeoed.org/explorer